Hi, friends. I'm so happy to connect with you again. I'm really looking forward to hearing about part two of your journey. Part one was all about getting good at meditation, and part two is all about getting good at life. And I love some of your questions. You're like, I don't know if I'm getting good at life, and what's the whole point? And I love this because it's a sort of esoteric, bigger question. What's good? What's bad? What's the point of life? So we can talk about some of those things tonight. But I'm really looking forward to hearing about your experience and also how the M word is going for you in the morning, how you're finding doing that on your own. Are you doing it on your own? And also, are you able to apply some of these guided visualizations into your real life scenarios? So that's really, this time is really for us to connect. I want to hear your questions. I'm not going to do too much lecturing at you. I just want us to connect and dive in. So with that, I will start with some of the submitted questions. Okay, so the first question is from Anthony. And he said, I recall you saying that the point of meditation is to get better at life, and that the point of life is the expansion of happiness. What does it mean to get better at life, and how will getting better at life expand my happiness? So we're just going to dive right in. We're going to dive right down the deep esoteric rabbit hole. Now, obviously, everyone's version of getting better at life is going to be different. What's good for me might be different for what's good for you, Anthony. And also, increasingly, I'm really starting to play with throwing these ideas of good and bad out the window, throwing these ideas of right and wrong out the window. One of my favorite quotes is by Shakespeare, and he says, "Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Think about that for a minute. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And I think that this is particularly relevant to meditation, because if you're judging thoughts as bad during meditation, then it's really easy to feel like you're failing and then you quit. But if you're not really judging them as good or bad, and if you're not looking at them through any particular lens, then it's easier to just take it as it comes and to enjoy the process as it unfolds. But I like this idea, and it's just an idea. It's a thought experiment, and if you agree with it, great, and if not, great. But I'm curious to know, what's your idea of the purpose of life? That could be a fun thing to chat about. But I like the idea of that the purpose of life is the expansion of happiness, because that could apply to your own expansion of happiness and to the people around you. And so this to me is one of the most beautiful byproducts and benefits of meditation, is that as we go in every day and we start getting rid of all the stresses that we've been accumulating in our nervous system for our whole lives, then we start to have more space in our brains, more space in our bodies. And in that space, in that vacuum that is created, that bliss and that fulfillment and that joy starts to come in. I feel like as we peel away those layers of stress, we start to be able to access our true nature, which is that 24-hour-a-day bliss. And I know bliss and happiness are not the same thing. They're not synonyms. And I know we talked about this on our last live call, that bliss is that piece of you that knows that everything's okay. The piece of you that knows that everything's working out exactly as it's meant. And it's possible to experience bliss even when you're sad or angry or jealous or raging. It's just, even if it's 0.001% of you. But I actually do think that in this case, I mean the word happiness. So the point of life is the expansion of happiness, both your own and others. And if that doesn't resonate for you as a way to get better at life, then I'd be happy to hear what your version of that. So I have no interest in having like a dogma or a doctrine or telling you what you should or shouldn't do or what you should think is the purpose of your life. That's just something I've been experimenting with as the purpose of my life. Okay, so next question is from Kristen. And she said, I find that I feel wonderful just after meditating. She feels calm and at peace, but it can be difficult to hold on to that feeling throughout the day and make it last. Any tips for retaining those good vibes we get from meditating? So really good question, Kristen. And know that you're really early on in your meditation journey. I mean, even if you've done other styles of meditation, I want you to think about this one as a new practice. So you're about 2-3 weeks into your meditation career. So I want you to think about yourself a little bit like a 2 or 3 week old baby. And it's like your vessel right now is it's getting bigger with each meditation. With each day that you meditate, you're carving out more stress and you're creating more and more space for more of those good vibes, more of that happiness. And so if you think about your vessel for bliss and fulfillment like a water balloon, then each day that you're filling it up, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as the vessel expands and as you're filling it up to full, then that good vibe and that happiness starts to last with you longer and longer. So in the beginning, it's like you meditate and you tap into that beautiful blissy fulfillment, and then you open your eyes and you can still feel it, but you check your watch and then it's gone. Next day, you tap into that beautiful, deep, inner, quiet contentedness. You open your eyes, it's still there. You check your watch, it's still there. And then you go to take a sip of water, and it's gone. Next day, watch, water, bathroom, and then it's gone. Next day, watch, water, bathroom, breakfast, gone. Next day, watch, water, bathroom, breakfast, work, gone. And then there comes a day that the good vibes from the meditation start to come with you all the way until you go to sleep, and then you go and you wake up and you do the whole thing over again. So really this is going to happen with time, and the more you start to practice, you're going to notice that these benefits become cumulative, meaning that the more you're practicing, the more these benefits are going to start to build up and you're going to start to accumulate them, and that your vessel to hold bliss and fulfillment and adaptation energy is going to get bigger and bigger. So it's going to last with you longer throughout your day. But really good question. Okay, now Mahendra asked, how do we determine if we're gaining any benefits from the M-word meditation? What would be some clear indicators? So really good question, Mahendra. And so I would recommend that you go back to your homework assignment on day 1. So on day 1 of this course, I asked you to write down what your relationship was with stress, to start to rate things on a scale of 1 to 10. How's your sleep? How's your sex life? How's your creativity? How's your patience? How's your reaction time? How many times a year do you get sick? And so there's some things that we can start to measure in the short term. And yes, we're very much still in the short term. I know it feels like we're almost done with this whole 34-day challenge, but actually we're just a few days in, right? We're less than a month into our lifetime career as meditators. And if we pull the lens way back and think about this as something you're going to do for decades, then we're just at the beginning, right? But even already, there's some things that we can start to look at. And I recommend that you start to look at your sleep, at your energy levels, at your rage, at your creativity, your intuition, your ability to focus, not during the meditation, but your ability to focus in your waking state, your stamina, your immune system. And sort of the caveat to that is that for a lot of people in the first few days and even the first few weeks, there tends to be a period of that emotional detox or that unstressing period. And so it's basically like things have to get a little bit messier before they get cleaner. But starting pretty quickly, at this point, you guys are probably at the point where your pendulum is starting to swing, where it's like you feel great and then you feel a little sad, or you feel really energized and then really tired. And that pendulum swing is going to start to even out in the next few days and weeks, and you're going to start to feel a little bit more stable. But I would say the best way to gauge your progress and your results is to look at your homework from day 1 and then ask yourself, where am I now at this part of the journey? And then know that for most people, for the first 2 to 3 months, it's a bit of a variation. But the best thing to look at is how are you performing in your waking state, not necessarily how many thoughts are you having with your eyes closed. And this is a really tempting trap to fall into. It's really easy to judge the deep meditations as good and the shallow, active, thought-filled meditations as bad. And I know I've said this before, but I'm just going to keep on saying it because it's so, so important. Obviously I'm here at Ziva. I'm at our meditation studio here in New York City. And I just taught a course, and I had a couple come back who's been meditating for about 2.5 years. And the woman is loving it. She's like in it to win it. Her kids have learned. She wants to do advanced techniques. She's just hungry to learn. And the guy stopped meditating because he said, well, I could never stop my mind from thinking. I was meditating and I just kept thinking about work. And so finally I was like, well, whatever, I'll just think about work. And so even though he did it for a little while, the whole time he was judging himself as the thoughts were being bad. And so he quit. And so this is why I keep saying this thing again and again and again. So for clear indicators of whether or not it's working, I'd rather you look at your life versus looking at what's happening in the sitting itself, because that's not yours to control, right? Whatever the body wants to do, it's going to do. So here's a good rule of thumb. Look at how was I feeling and performing the day before I started meditating versus how am I feeling and performing about 30 minutes after I meditate. So this is a really good way to gauge our progress. How was I feeling and performing the day before I started versus how am I feeling and performing about 30 minutes after I meditate? And that's a great indicator. Really good question. Okay. So from Anand says there are many meditation styles or programs out there. Um, Yours after day 16 seems fresh, light, easy to do, but does the M word allow for deep meditation? So really good question, Anand. And I guess my question to you would be, what do you mean by deep meditation? I'm assuming that you mean no thoughts or very few thoughts, or like that sort of sleepy, sort of like bliss field meditation. And yes, there is absolutely a way to start to access those deeper states of consciousness. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to talk about Ziva Mind, which is our online training that we have that gives you a twice a day practice where you're actually in that bliss field, you're in that effortless silence for 15 minutes twice a day. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So there's ways that if you want to take things deeper, you absolutely can. But in the meantime, if you're feeling like that effortless silence part feels fun for you, and if it feels delicious and you feel like you want to luxuriate there a little bit longer, you can start to extend that. You know, at this point, if you might already be building it up, but I'd say you could do that for up to about 10 to 12 minutes of that effortless silence. And I know we talked a lot about timing last time, but I'll just remind you that anytime you're curious about how much time has passed, you just check. You just open your eyes and you check your timepiece. And if it's not whatever time you anticipated coming out, you just close your eyes and float back to that word. Really good. And I'm glad that you're finding it fresh and light. That's great. Okay, so Bambang says, how do I start a practice / meditation in a chaos situation where fear, worry, and panic come together at the same time? So, good question. And there's going to be situations, right? We were just like, whoa, I'm in the middle of it. And I would say if you're actually in a life-threatening situation, or if you're actually in a high demand, like you're actually in a fight or flight, I would recommend not meditating in that moment. You know, if your life is being threatened or if you're in danger in some way, then it's actually okay to get stressed. That's a good time to get stressed. And it's not bad for you to get stressed. It's terrible for you to stay stressed. It's that chronic stress that is so toxic. But it's okay for us to, like, you know, get scared and to get excited and to launch into fight or flight. That's all okay, provided that it doesn't last forever and ever and ever. You don't stay in that state chronically. But let's say you're not in fight or flight, you're not in danger, but there's just a lot going on at work and you're pretty amped up, but you know it's time to meditate. If you're just feeling too jacked up even to start the M word, then you could do what I call the OMFG technique, which I won't say what that stands for, but you can probably figure it out. And that is a variation on the 2X breath. So the 2X breath we did in the very beginning, and this is also something that I've given you guys as an alternate. So if you have trouble with the alternate nostril breathing, or if you're stopped up one day, or a lot of people just can't breathe through their nose for whatever reason, so you could do the 2X breath, which is basically doubling the length of the exhale versus the inhale. So you could inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. And when you're really amped, you could do that actually walking around. So you just take a walk and you inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. So in, out. In for 2, out for 4. And you can do that pacing or walking around, and then you can extend it, inhaling for 3 steps, exhaling for 6, and then eventually inhaling for 4 steps, exhaling for 8. Now, when you double the length of your exhale versus your inhale, you're actually calming the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that connects the brain and the body. It's the thing that connects your brain to your heart. And so doubling the length of that exhale really starts to bring the body down, and then it's a nice way to launch into the M word. So that's something you could do on the front end before you start with the balancing breath. Really good question. Okay, so Lori is asking, you have so many applications for the M word technique. Any advice on approaches to grief? So I'm glad that you asked, and I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure with 2,500 people in this course, I'm sure that there must be at least a few people who are experiencing some form of grief. And this can be a challenging time in your meditation career, because I think for a lot of us, when we're mourning or when we're grieving, the body goes into a bit of shock, and it goes into a bit of numbness. And I think that those states of grieving exist for a reason. I think that your body starts trying to protect you, and it's like it has to reacclimate to the new normal, and you have to take some time to accept the new reality. And so I oftentimes, with my students at Ziva, they say, Emily, I just can't meditate. I lost my daughter, I lost my mom, I lost my pet, and it's just too painful right now. I just can't sit. And so I just want you to be really gentle with yourself. And if you need to take a little break in that time, I think it's a-okay. I think that the body gets numb and it goes into a shock for a reason. And the meditation is not a numbing device. I mean, I think you guys have learned this by now, that a lot of other styles of meditation are there to have like a spa day for your brain. This one is a little bit more like cleaning out your dirty closets, and it's wringing you out a little bit. And so if you're mourning, the meditation can actually heighten those feelings and can kick things up more intensely. And so if you need to take a little break for a while, I would say be very gentle with yourself and just do it. I would recommend putting in some other nourishing activities like naps and walks and baths and massages and journaling and therapy and talking to your friends face to face and tea and anything that feels nourishing to your soul, and artwork, creativity, anything you can create. I feel like energy either creates or it destroys. And when you start mourning, you start having a lot of feelings coming up. So the more you can move them up and out with any sort of a creative act, like making dinner or writing or playing with Play-Doh or finger paints, whatever feels like a vessel to move things up and out, that would be a very good thing to do. And then start back before you're ready. Maybe take a week or two off, give yourself a moment. But even before you're ready, before it feels quite comfortable, start back. Because otherwise you start to just sit in it for too long and you start to stagnate, and that stuff starts to grow tentacles in your body. And I think we talked about this before, but I think it's a valuable concept to revisit. I really believe that we have an opportunity to learn our lessons spiritually. And if we don't learn things on the spiritual plane, then we have to learn them on the psychological plane. And if we don't learn them there, then we have to learn them on the physical plane. And so if you are mourning, just start back before you're ready so that you can start to heal things on the spiritual plane, so that you don't have to pay your therapist $150 every week for the next 10 years. And then if you don't do that, then sometimes we have to cut it out as cancer. So it's much faster and cheaper to learn things on the spiritual plane than it is the psychological plane. And then it's much longer and much more expensive once it actually shows up on the physical plane. Good. So a few more questions, and then we'll start opening it up for questions from you. So if they're already bubbling up and you want to type them in, that's a-okay. I'm going to take a few more that have already been chosen. So this one's from Astrid. She says, I find it hard to create habits with the meditations you teach in part 2, since there's no repetition involved as with the M word. Any advice to incorporate these seamlessly? So this is a great question, Astrid. And so we very purposefully did a lot of repetition of the M word in part 1. And then my goal with that was to make you self-sufficient. I wanted you to know that thing in your bones so that you can start to do that on your own. And if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't tried an M word technique on your own yet, now's the time. It's time to rip the Band-Aid, cut the cord, and do one on your own. You don't have to do it forever on your own, but try a couple, see how it feels. Experiment with it. If things go a little long or a little short, it's all good. But I want you to start to play with that with your big girl pants on. But part 2 is a totally different ballgame. So part 2 is all about guided visualizations to get good at life. And you can use these guided ones as many times as you want to. And it's one of the great things about this format, about the Quest app, is that you have it on your phone. So you just have it in your back pocket and you just press play. I think that it's too many techniques and too much to try and remember all at once. Now you'll notice that there is some repetition. That some, one like for a date or for an interview, like I might use a few of the same techniques. So you'll start to find like which ones work for you and which of these breath techniques or visualizations or, power poses that you enjoy. And then you can start to eventually, have a little freedom and creativity with it. But for right now, I would recommend that you just press play on your phone. So if you have, if you're having some time or like a tough time with mindful consumption, then just next time before you have your next meal, just before you eat it, press play and listen to the guided visualization. It's meant for it to be there in your back pocket. So basically what I'm saying is don't worry about memorizing it. And then over time, it'll just start to feel like second nature if you want it to. But don't feel bad about using my voice for guidance in that. Okay, so from Harish, she says, how can meditation help me stop my addictions, like watching too much TV or other addictions? So a Couple of things. Big picture, the way that meditation helps with addictions is that it's basically giving you access to your bliss and your fulfillment in the only place that they reside, which is inside of you. Now, every spiritual text has been saying this since the beginning of time. What you seek is in you. And that's great to get that as an intellectual concept, as an idea, but it's much, much more powerful to be able to experience that tangibly and viscerally every day when you meditate. And so what's happening when we do this style of meditation is that eventually at some point, and especially during that effortless silence, you're going to have moments where your brain starts producing dopamine and serotonin, which are bliss chemicals. So anything that you think that you're addicted to, you're actually addicted to that dopamine and serotonin. You're addicted to that hit of bliss chemistry that you get. And so this is why, they teach a style very similar to Ziva. They'll teach it at a lot of addiction recovery centers. Because once you start to realize that you have access to your fulfillment in here, you stop looking for it externally. But be patient with yourself, right? Like, we're only a few weeks in. And so if you still have some lingering addictions, that's okay. It takes time. And what I would rather have happen is that your addictions just start to fall away innocently and spontaneously, instead of you trying to make them go away, instead of you white knuckling your way or controlling your way out of them. Now, what a lot of people report when they take the in-person training with me is, like, by day 4 or 5, they just don't turn on their coffee machine because they just forgot, because they weren't so exhausted anymore, so they weren't reaching for that coffee. Now, a lot of people use TV almost as a way to like stop the mind. And it's not really stopping the mind, but what happens is that the TV thinks for you, right? It's like if you're watching TV, you don't have to wrestle with all those stressy, angry, sad thoughts because you're being so entertained with the light box in front of you. And so the meditation is going to start to give you something else to do with your brain. It's going to start to give you a self-sufficient means by which to settle in and to relax everything. And so you're not going to be as dependent on something externally to entertain you or to quiet this mind. Like, some people really, they're like, I always have to have on music, or I have to have the TV on in the background. And what I hear when people say that is, I'm terrified of my own thoughts. I don't want to hear whatever conversation is happening up here. And so if that is the case for you, then it might behoove you to spend some time with those thoughts, not judging them as good or bad, not judging them as right or wrong, but actually just writing them down and getting really honest with them, looking them in the face and using them as a tool. Because here's the thing, if you're not managing those conversations inside of your head, then they're managing you. And I'm not saying control your thoughts during the meditation. That's the opposite of what I'm saying. What I am saying is, let's say your dad left you when you were 5, right? And then you have this story of like, well, I just have abandonment issues. That's just who I am. And I can't ever be in a relationship because I don't trust men and they always leave me, and everyone always leaves me. Once they get to know me, once they see me, they just leave. Like, that's a story, okay? And that's a story that you believe, and it's going in your head again and again and again. And until you look that thing in the face and get honest with it and decide whether or not that's true for you in the right now, then that underlying belief, that story, is going to be affecting every single decision that you make. And so this is a little bit of a bigger conversation for another time, but I just think there's a lot of value in getting really honest with all these old stories and beliefs that we've been telling ourselves for a lifetime. Because once you start to bring them into the light, then you can actually use them. You can use them to help you design your life instead of being a victim or a slave to them. But in the meantime, something that you can use if you're feeling addicted to stuff like TV, use that mindful consumption visualization. That's the whole reason that we made it. So you can start to make more conscious decisions about what you are consuming. So Sam asks, how can meditation in general, or the M-word technique, help eliminate depression? So great question, Sam. And first of all, I'm really sorry that you're dealing with depression. And I know that that's really hard. And I am really glad that you asked the question. And sometimes just acknowledging it, like, man, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm going through a period of depression, like just looking it in the face and getting honest with it and admitting it and bringing it into the light is, more than half of the journey. So if you are dealing with depression or extreme anxiety or OCD or PTSD, I highly, highly encourage you to seek professional help and do talk to a therapist. It's really powerful to work face to face with someone, maybe seek a life coach. And because online courses are great and technology is great, and I'm so thankful that we get to spread these tools and share these tools to so many people, but nothing takes the place of face-to-face contact. There is power in mirror neurons, and there is oxytocin that gets released, which is a love chemical, when you're actually looking someone in the eye and touching someone. So I would say, if you are dealing with depression, please be gentle with yourself. Please do seek help. And if you need to dial the meditation down a little bit, if things start to get really extreme or overwhelming, you can always abbreviate the practice or do it a little bit less frequently, because meditation does start kicking up some dust. And over a long term, that's good. But in the near term, if it feels overwhelming, just feel free to take your foot off of the gas. But long term, the way that meditation helps with depression is that, so like in India, we would call depression and anxiety different sides of the same coin. And they're basically just different manifestations of stress. Okay, it's like one is almost like a fighter syndrome and one is a flighter syndrome. So if you get stressed and you go into fight or flight, depending on what flavor of anxiety or depression you have, some people they freeze, or they want to flight and they retreat inside of themselves. And so meditation is very much moving you out of fight or flight and into what I call stay and play, and allowing you to be more present, more accepting of everything as it is right now. And then you start to feel things more fully, right? You feel them more intensely, but then you move through to the new now. And depression usually comes from spending too much time in the past, and anxiety usually comes from spending too much time in the future, which is where our stress hangs out, right? In the past and the future. We review the past and we rehearse the future. This is where most of us are spending most of our lives. And what the meditation is doing is that it's taking your right brain to the gym and it's allowing you to access the right here, right now, which is where our bliss hangs out. Right? Now, the other thing that's happening neurochemically is that your brain starts producing that dopamine and serotonin, which are actually bliss chemicals, and they are antidotes to depression. And so over time, your brain starts producing its own organic bliss chemistry, and then it gets addicted to that, just like any other addiction. So each day when you meditate, it has to produce a little bit more dopamine and a little bit more serotonin. And so those levels start to get higher and higher. And then with that gratitude practice, if you're incorporating any gratitude into your M-word technique, that alone is enough to change the chemistry of your brain. And over time, it starts to change the wiring. So you start forming new neuropeptide connections in the brain. And then after a longer period of time, of years of practicing, those neuropeptide connections start to solidify. So you're literally rewiring your brain, which is really exciting. And there's some pretty cool advances in neuroscience talking about just how plastic the brain is, which means just how changeable it is. So yeah, it's not a quick fix, and sometimes things get messier before they get cleaner. So be gentle with yourself. Lots of naps, baths, walks, massages, face-to-face therapy, writing, but better out than in. Good. So a couple more questions, and then we'll open it up. This is from Audra, and she said, you'd mentioned that if we wanted to go deeper into meditation, that we should check out Ziva Mind. You don't suggest using the M-word twice a day, yet you mentioned in Ziva Mind, you do 2 15-minute meditations per day. What's the difference between the two courses, and how often should we meditate for optimum results? So awesome question, Audra. I'm so glad you asked. And so a lot of people have been asking us, what's the difference between Ziva Mind and the M-word? And I'll talk about that now, because they're not the same thing, right? It would make no sense for me to make the same exact course twice. So you guys know the M-word, right? Part 1 is all about giving you that morning practice, priming your brain, and it's a multi-phase meditation. There's breath work, there's gratitude, there's that love bomb, and then we have that little 5-minute effortless silence. And then part 2 of this course is all about practical guided visualizations that you can use for real life scenarios, which is great. But that's more of a mindfulness technique. And I think that overall this is a very comprehensive training. But what Ziva Mind is that it's really designed to make you a very self-sufficient meditator. It's giving you a mantra that's even more powerful than the one that you're using now. And it's going to be more akin to what you're doing in the effortless silence, but we're going to extend that to 15 minutes in the morning and then 15 minutes in the afternoon. And the reason why you'd want to do a twice-a-day practice is that once-a-day meditation is basically getting rid of all the stresses you're accumulating in the right now, but twice a day is the thing that's going to start getting rid of all the stresses that you've been accumulating from your entire past. And so over time of doing it twice a day, you really start ushering yourself into higher and higher states of consciousness. You start getting rid of this backlog of accumulated stresses. And that changes not only the way you deal with stress in the right now, but it changes the way you deal with stress in the future. And that's really where you start to see these big improvements in your performance. Ziva Minder's report having like a 40% increase in performance capabilities, 27% less likely to be hospitalized. And so it's giving you like more powerful tools to be able to sit in and luxuriate in that effortless silence and start to induce a verifiable fourth state of consciousness that I call the bliss field. And so, but for now, like if it doesn't feel charming for you to do Ziva Mind right now, I think that it's 100% a-okay and great to wake up and do the M word technique in the morning and then do one of the guided visualizations in the afternoon. And I'd say, anywhere in that mid-afternoon slump or anytime before dinner, you could do one of the guided visualizations from part 2. And if you want to dive deeper, we'd love to have you at Ziva Mind. And just to tell you a little bit about the way the course works itself. So Ziva Mind is 8 days, but it's not micro-learning like this course. The sessions are a little bit longer. They're about 25 to 30 minutes a day. And it's 8 consecutive days, and it really is a matriculation. So each day builds upon the previous day, and you graduate with 15 minutes twice a day and a pretty powerful mantra. And then if you learn in person, then it takes things to a whole new level because there's nothing that really can replace face-to-face. Okay, thanks for asking that. And P.S. if you want to check out Ziva Mind, if you want to learn more, there's some videos just at zivamind.com. Okay, so this, Srinivasa, I think is how you say your name. So I look forward to putting the second part of the course into applying it to my real life. How do I apply meditation to solve problems? So interesting question. And the best answer to this is just do it. Like just get really, really religious about it. Get very disciplined about just wake up, use the bathroom, and then meditate. And then do one of those visualizations in the afternoon. And what you're going to start to find is that over time, nature starts to render you choiceless. Now, what I mean when I say this is that the volume on your intuition is going to start to turn up because the volume on your critical mind is going to start to turn down. Most of us have been taking that left brain to the gym for a very long time. So this thing gets very strong and our right brain is over here atrophying. And what we're doing now with the meditation is we're taking that right brain to the gym so that you start to have a fighting chance of which of these voices you want to listen to, the critical mind or the intuitive mind. And so you're going to start to find that when faced with a choice or when faced with a problem, you're just going to be like, this one, this person, this computer, this car, this boyfriend, this job. And I know that sometimes that might sound not so fun to be rendered choiceless, but I actually feel like choice can be tyrannical. The tyranny of choice. Like who needs 1,000 pairs of jeans to decide between? Who needs 100 million YouTube channels to decide what to watch? Sometimes it's nice to just know the answer. And over time, this is one of the things that I've found that meditation helps with. And if you're not sure, just move in a direction and then information will flow, right? If you're deciding between A and B and you really can't, if the charm isn't feeling very clear and your gut just isn't talking to you that day, then just move in a direction and then you'll start to see if it feels like the right one. Good. So I can start to open it up for some questions that you guys have. This is from Sharon, and she said, "Is it wrong to continue using you to guide the meditation?" So Sharon, it's not wrong, but ultimately this is going to be so much more enjoyable for you if you become self-sufficient, because I don't want you to be reliant on a charged cell phone and a Wi-Fi connection and earphones and a quiet place to be able to meditate. I really want you to be able to do this anywhere, anytime. So I'd say use my voice as long as it feels charming, but just try it one day, just experiment. Let me just be like, let me see if I could do it. And even if you need to write down like the sections of the M word, just write it down and take a peek when you're checking your watch, be like, what's next? And then just start to train yourself to do it on your own. And if you don't like it, you can go back to my voice the next day, but eventually you want to do this thing on your own. Good. So Anish is asking, what should I do when I get the sequence wrong during meditation session? Should I correct as I go along, or should I stop and restart the process? Anish, I wouldn't worry too much about the order. I mean, if you do one instead of the other, it's all good. And if that happens innocently and spontaneously, don't sweat it. If you notice that that's happening, then maybe just listen to my voice a few times. And then, for the next few days, do it guided, and then you can go back to doing it on your own. But we're going to start to let go of these ideas of right and wrong. One of my other favorite quotes is from Rumi, who's a Sufi poet who's amazing. Rumi. If you don't know Rumi yet, get into him. He's amazing. And there's a quote, and it says, beyond right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And I went and I did a silent meditation retreat in India in December. And for whatever reason, this one quote was just like screaming in my brain for like the whole 10 days. Beyond right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. And it just kept coming up for me again and again and again. And so I don't really know why or what it means just yet, but I've been sitting with it for a while. And so I invite you to maybe write that down, put it on your mirror, meditate on it. But let's let go of the idea of right and wrong, good and bad, and we'll just be where we are. We'll take it as it comes. We'll allow the practice to unfold. Really good. Okay, so I think this is Liu Bo, says, how do I know I feel bliss? I know that everything is okay. Are there any signs in life that show I am functioning in bliss mode? Good question. So let's talk about this word bliss, okay? Because a lot of us think about it as a synonym for happiness, and it's not. It's a little, and I think you get this, it's a little piece of you that knows that everything's okay. Bliss is like, it's like a calm, quiet, inner contentedness. It's like, imagine that you have an anchor, like just settling you down to these least excited states of awareness and just letting you feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more connected, where you start to see more of yourself inside of others and others inside of you. And you start to realize that there is only one thing and we're all it. When this starts to be a reality, even for fleeting moments, right? But then 1 minute turns into 2, and 2 minutes turns into 5. And when this starts to be more the norm than the I suck, I'm late, I'm going to die alone with cats eating my face voice, then you can start to know that there's more bliss starting to creep into your waking state. But the tricky thing about bliss is that in the actual meditation, in that effortless silence, even, you might touch that bliss field for the moment, but it won't necessarily feel blissful. Like if you're in the meditation and you're touching that fourth state of consciousness, you're never going to have the thought of like, oh yes, I'm currently in bliss field and it's currently amazing. Because by definition, you don't know that you're there when you're there. Normally you know it right afterwards. And it normally looks like, oh, I was just doing it. Oh my gosh, I'm the best meditator in the land. And then you start chasing the dragon a little bit. And that's all normal and fine. What I recommend is that you just really be easy with yourself. Let go of any agenda where you think you need to get to, and just accept exactly where you are. Really good question. Okay, so this is from Amelie. She said, when I tried meditating on my own with the M-word technique without your voice, it was terrible. I tried twice. I had no focus and it did not relax me at all. I feel like I necessarily need to use you guiding my meditation in order for it to be good. What can I do? Amelie, I'm so glad you asked. I bet you're not alone. It seems like there's a lot of attachment going on. So a couple of things. I want you to take the word focus and I want you to throw it out the window. We don't really focus in this style of meditation. And I'm not really interested in you being like relaxed. And again, this idea of good, like what's good? If you have a meditation and your mind is thinking, and there's sirens going by and you hear the sirens and you're having all kinds of emotions coming up, that's all A-okay. That's your body letting go of stresses. And that I would call a good meditation. The only thing that's tripping you up is the idea that there's a right or a wrong way to do this and you're wanting to get it perfect. Now, I know that there's a lot of components to the M word, so what you might want to do is simplify it. Maybe you just do the balancing breath into the effortless silence, into a bit of gratitude. Simplify it a little bit for yourself. So if it's all the phases that are tripping you up, then just do 2 or 3 of them. And then just ease your way in and ease your way out, and know that thoughts are not the enemy. You're not supposed to be focusing, and good for you for trying it without my voice. It's not going to be that easy. It's like taking off training wheels. You're going to feel wobbly. You're going to feel like you're failing a little bit, and that's okay. You got to be a beginner at some point. Let yourself be good before you expect yourself to be great. Maybe even allow yourself to be bad before you expect yourself to be good. Okay, we got to just accept where we are, take it as it comes, and know that each day it's going to get a little bit easier. You're going to need me a little bit less. But good job for trying. Okay, so this is from Pitram, that I'm enjoying the M word meditation and can see benefits happening. My question is, can I perform this practice with my team in office? How would I go about doing this? Okay, great question, Pitram, and I'm so glad that you are interested in already sharing the benefits of meditation with the world and with the land. Just to be clear, so the M word, this training is training you to be a meditator and to have this practice to have with you for life. It's not necessarily training you to be a meditation teacher or a meditation guide. And yes, it is very simple, but there is some nuance to ushering people into and out of meditation. And the tricky thing is that we never really know where someone is coming from. And so if someone is coming from some trauma or some PTSD or some sadness or some depression or anxiety, I wouldn't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation where you're leading someone has a bit of a freak out and you don't really know how to handle it. And so my recommendation would be, if they wanted to do something, just keep it really simple. Like maybe you start with the 2x breath and just have them breathe for a little bit. Just in for 2 and out for 4. Or what would be another thing you could do with people? What you could do is you could walk people through the come to your senses and just have them hear what they're hearing, feel what they're feeling, see what they're seeing, taste what they're tasting, smell what they're smelling. And I would probably start with about 5 minutes. That's good for most people to start. And then if they're liking it and they want to dive deeper, then you could have them do Ziva Mind. I know we're taking a little pause on the M word for now, but we're going to probably open it back up for registration. But in the meantime, you could have them do the Ziva Mind training, and then you guys could meditate together. Cool. So this is from Danny. Said, I'm finding it hard to visualize, especially the love bomb. Is there a way to practice visualization? So good question, Danny. And I honestly find it kind of hard to visualize as well. Like when I'm doing the love bomb, I don't actually see anything. Some people are very visual and that's okay. But for me, it's more of just an intention. I just intend to send my love to the room, to the city, to the state, to the planet. And even you might be more oral, you might just hear things. So just you hearing, I'm going to send it to the whole country, or just intending it might be enough for you. But there are ways to practice visualization, and the reality is just doing it. You could maybe like look up a YouTube video of where they have like the cameras that go out all the way to outer space. Like you could watch one of those and actually get a visual in your brain and then play with that on your own. But the reality is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just the intention is enough. Okay, so Anand is asking, can Emily explain the hierarchy of meditation? Basic, beginners to intermediate to advanced. How long does it take at each stage? Stick to one form or explore other forms? Okay, so increasingly, I am not into hierarchies or patriarchies or dogma or doctrine. The reality is we're all just God pretending to be human, right? And we all have access to divine intelligence and creative intelligence all the time. Meditation is just a very powerful stress relieving tool, and the less stress you have in your body, the easier it is to tap into your own divine intelligence, and the easier it is for you to access that calm, quiet inner contentedness and to feel more connected to the people around you. Now, I obviously have biases. I think that there are certain types of meditation that are better than other styles for people with busy minds and busy lives. It's not that certain styles are better than others, it's just better for who you are and where you are in your life. So if I understand you correctly, I think you're asking what training goes for what part of your journey and how do we progress. So I'd say that the M word technique is a great way to start, and over time, if you really start to implement the part 2 into your real life scenarios, and if you're really doing that M word technique every morning, you're going to notice some really beautiful changes in your life. Now, if you want to start to get rid of those backlog of accumulated stresses and really start up-leveling your state of consciousness, Ziva Mind would be a good next step for you because it's going to make you very self-sufficient. You're not going to need my voice at all by the end of it. You're going to have this thing, you're going to be so totally it's the ultimate portable device where you just sit down anywhere, on a plane, on a bus, on a train, with your kids in the back seat, at work, and you'll just be able to do it, and you won't need any headphones or guidance, and you'll be able to do it twice a day. That's what Ziva Mind is for. And then if you wanted to really kick it up, come visit me in New York or LA, or come on one of the retreats and we can learn face to face. We would have like a whole initiation ceremony. I would give you your own personalized mantra, and then we would start doing 20 minutes twice a day. And that is there's power in having your own personalized mantra and the mirror neurons of being together, and that ceremony is nice. And then also when we take the in-person course, we do a bit of gratitude and habit forming and neuroscience, which you guys are getting some of that stuff already in the M word. But as far as hierarchy, nobody's ahead of anybody else. We're all just coming from and going back to the same place. The way I like to think about spiritual journeys is like water running down a stream. Let's say, you might be here on your journey and your friend might be here, but at the end of the day, the water is all swimming downstream and it's going to get to the ocean, and then it's going to evaporate and go up into the clouds, and then it's going to rain down on the mountain, and then you're going to start the stream again. So it's all a cycle, and no one's ahead of anybody else. Good. Oh, but to answer your perhaps more important question, should you stick to one form or explore other forms? I would say to start, I recommend just sticking to one form until you really feel like you have a mastery of it and you feel like, oh, okay, I get this. Then I would say stick with one form. What you don't want to do is start digging a lot of 3-foot wells and being surprised that you don't hit water. Imagine it's trying to dig a well, digging for 3 feet, and be like, I don't like this well, it's not working. Let me go dig another well, 3 feet, and then you quit. You dig another well, 3 feet, and you quit. And after 20 wells, you're like, I never hit water. And it's like, yeah, because you didn't stay with anything long enough. You didn't go deep enough to really tap into that, the source. So as starting, I would say stick with one. And then once you feel like you have a level of mastery of it, then you can try other styles if you want to. Yeah, good. Okay, so this is from Mike, and he says, the primary focus of my meditation is for high performance in sports. I have some mental blocks regarding fear. It's not so easy to surrender and let go when you're about to go off a 50-foot jump, I bet. I'm getting better at life, and this course is amazing. My endurance as an athlete is way up. I just need to get to the next level without injury. Any suggestions? So Mike, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad that this thing is already improving your performance and it's helping you maybe surrender a little bit. But as far as how do you take things to the next level and to do things without injury, as you guys know, I really love the word surrender. And in my mind, the whole art of meditation is all about learning the art and power of surrender. It's all about starting to trust this ability to let go, and that nature really truly has your back. Actually, we pull out one of our sweatshirts. I'd love to show them our Nature Has Your Back sweatshirts. So this is one of my theme songs that, nature has your back. And it might be easier to get the ones from from down there.
There are none.
Oh, okay. But as far as surrendering, right? Like, of course, if you're on a 50-foot platform and you're about to jump off, like your body's gonna launch into fight or flight, and that's okay. Like, that's normal. That's a normal time to get stressed. And that's probably part of why you do sports, why you do this high endurance thing, is that you love the thrill and the adrenaline rush that you get from doing that. Now, one of the things you can do, and especially if you're an athlete, is that you could visualize that stuff beforehand. So before you go to do a high dive or before you're about to engage in any sort of performance, like after your meditation that morning, I would actually visualize it. Like, see yourself preparing, see yourself walking up to the thing that you're about to jump off of, visualize the feeling that you get beforehand, visualize yourself feeling your breath in your feet when that fear comes up. So it's not about not feeling the fear, it's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And the cool thing about the brain is that it doesn't know the difference between a real memory and an imagined memory. And so if you start to imagine yourself winning and you start to imagine yourself jumping into that thing elegantly and bravely, which bravery is feeling the fear and doing it anyway, it's not the absence of fear. And that you start to create those memories in your brain, even imaginary ones, and then it becomes less terrifying when you do it. And then as far as the injury goes, you might get injured, and obviously there's nothing, I don't want you to, but if you do, then know that meditation is going to help your recovery time. It's okay if you want to pull it down. Okay. Yeah, okay. We're getting a sweatshirt out so you guys can see it. They're pretty rad. We custom made them and they're awesome. Okay, so we have one more question, and then I want to check in with you guys. I want you to, I'd love for you to start writing in what is your journey been? Like, what's your main takeaways from this call so far, or this live stream? What have you learned? What is resonating for you? Have you had any aha moments? What are your big takeaways from our time together? If you want to start sharing those, I'd love to learn, and I'd love to read some of those. We have a couple more questions. So this is from Stephanie. And she says, if we want to achieve a goal, like a habit change or achieve a meaningful goal that is not one of the guided visualizations, how do we use the M word technique to support this? So Stephanie, I'd probably need a little bit more information, like what is the goal or what is the habit change? And then I could help you a little bit more specifically. But the thing to know is that this thing takes time. It's a practice, it's a process. And ultimately what I'm interested in is you starting to fill yourself up with bliss and fulfillment and adaptation energy so that a lot of these addictions and habits start to fall away on their own. Now, and this is going to sound like so simplistic, but I've just recently started working with a coach and she's rocking my world right now. And she wrote down on a piece of paper, I'm sorry if this seems rudimentary, but she wrote, actions lead to results. She literally wrote down actions, arrow, results. You take action, you see results. You take action, you see results. Now I know that might seem simple, but if there's a habit that you want to stop or that you want to encourage, that you want to start doing, just do it. Like just literally stop doing the thing or start doing the thing. Just one time. Right? See how it feels. And then the next day, do it one more time. You know, actions lead to results. Write it on your mirror if you need to. Put it on your phone as your screensaver. Actions lead to results. And just start to see, okay, well, if I take this action, this is the result. I like this result. I'm going to do it again. And then reward yourself, or, you know, put a reminder in your phone, or get an accountability buddy, or play the story out in your brain. If I do this action, I don't like these results. Let me just feel what that feels like if I do this thing that I don't like doing. Or if I take this action, I like these results. Let me just play with what that feels like. But I find that as a general rule, it's easier to move towards the positive than it is to move away from the negative. So instead of watering the weeds, let's start watering the flowers, okay? Instead of being like, I don't want to watch TV, I don't want to drink coffee, I don't want to smoke pot, I don't want to bite my nails, because then you're just watering the weeds, watering the weeds. Instead, start to, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to do 20 push-ups when I wake up. And then I'm going to go get a manicure, or I'm going to dim the lights in my bathroom. You know, whatever habits you have that you don't like, set up processes on the front end while you're in a good state of mind to set yourself up for success. Good. So we're starting to get some comments from the students, from you guys. I'm starting to hear what your takeaways were, so please keep those coming. I'd love to hear what you're enjoying, what your big aha moments are, what your big takeaways are. So this one is from Amanda. She said the expansion of happiness. I love, love, love that right now. I'm trying to up-level my life and everything is going wrong, but I am completely at peace with it. I know that I'm working toward my best possible future. Life is chaotic. Being able to have peace in the chaos is the most amazing gift ever. Thank you so much, Emily. Wow, Amanda, that's huge. So, I mean, look, I'm a meditation teacher, okay? I've been meditating for 10 years and my life is still chaotic. Like there's always gonna be chaos. There's always gonna be stuff to do. You know, I've been in meetings or teaching or running from thing to thing like all morning since 9 a.m. my time. It's now 10 p.m. So, you know, for 13 hours a day, it's just been like nonstop. So I can't promise that meditation is going to take away the chaos. That's life. You know, the question is, how do we adapt to it? How do we flow with it? How do we perform inside of those challenges and inside of that chaos? But let's not wait for a magic wand of, you know, no demands and no challenges and no chaos and no change in order to be happy. So good for you. I'm glad that that happiness inside of the chaos is the thing that's resonating for you. Good. So Yael, I think that's how you say it. So I believe the purpose of life is to create tomorrow's past. Interesting, that's beautiful. I believe the purpose of life is to create tomorrow's past. Since we are only a manifestation of the past and our experiences. So on that note, I completely resonate with so many of your sayings. the concept of good versus bad, the present is the future in the making. Thank you for everything. You've helped me reach my own goal of creating routine in my life and feeling good about myself and my day. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. That's awesome. And I've never heard this said this way before. The purpose of life is to create tomorrow's past. We are a manifestation of our past and our experiences. So beautifully said. Thank you for articulating that. And the way that I understand that, and when you study the Vedas, when you study Ayurveda, you learn one of these concepts is that the mind is the future, your digestion is your present, and your body is your past. Right? So your mind is the future, your digestion is what's happening right now, it's the present, and your body, this collection of cells, is your past. And so that's very in line with this Ayurvedic way of thinking. So every bite of food you eat, every meditation you do, every time you exercise, all that stuff is getting stored in your cells. So the better you are to yourself right now, the better you're going to feel tomorrow. So that's beautiful. So Janice is saying, since doing the M word, I had to go to my doctor and have a blood pressure check, and it ended up being perfect. That's a new thing. It's usually high. Awesome. That's so good. It's so nice when you have like actual data, like when you have actual pre and post and hard facts to look at. That's so rewarding and so validating, because it's really easy to want to punch holes in this thing and want to be like, I don't really think it's working because I'm having a lot of thoughts when I'm meditating. So good for you. I'm glad that you have that data. And P.S. if you guys have like body data tracking devices, like this is a Ring. I think I talked about this on the last one. This is like a body data monitoring device, or if you wear like a Fitbit or a Jawbone or anything that's tracking your sleep or your heart rate or your blood pressure, I would love to see those before and afters. So if you wanted to post like screenshots in the tribe, if you feel comfortable with that, what I'm really interested in is like your resting heart rate and your sleep. So what happens, the pattern I see a lot of times is before people start meditating, their sleep looks like this. And then after they meditate, their sleep goes like this. And sometimes they need a little bit less of it and they feel more rested. So if you see a change in your sleep or your resting heart rate or any other data of note, I would love, love, love to have that. So you can either post that in the tribe, or you could email that to info@zivamind.com and send that in. So that would be awesome. Thank you. Good. So Mary says her takeaway is we each have the power to live life well. When we have the courage to take an action and believe that we can, success will happen. The M word specifically gets us there. Thank you. Right on. So this kind of is in line with this, actions lead to results. And and also let's talk about this word success, right? Because this word success is a little tricky. Because a lot of us think that there's like a predetermined, like, oh, I crossed the finish line and now I'm successful. But actually, according to the Vedas, success just means succession, right? That one thing is succeeding into another thing, and that's happening all the time. Life is unfolding in succession all the time. The question is it moving in the area of creation or is it moving towards destruction, right? And so where are we leading with creation in our lives? Where are we leading with maintenance? And where has destruction come through to clean house? Good. So you guys, thank you so, so much for all of your feedback. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for sticking with me. Oh, and I promised I would show you guys my sweatshirt. It took us a really long time to design these. So I said that quote, right, that nature has your back. So this is our sweatshirt. It says nature has your back. I don't know if you can read that. And then, but this is the best part. We custom designed the hoodies. And I'm sorry, P.S. If you have kids around, you might want to have them look away. There's some cursing that's about to come on your screen. I apologize if this offends you. But we custom made these meditation hoodies, and they're really long and they cover your face. So you can do it in public, or if your kids are around, well, don't do it in front of your kids. But if you're at work, if you're on the train, you can just put this down. It also doubles as an eye mask, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. And we just got them in. So you can check them out on zivameditation.com/zivaswag if you want yourself a little sweatshirt. How's my hair? Good. So you guys, really, truly, I'm so moved to hear your experiences. I'm so glad to be able to connect and to hear what's going on and what is challenging, what's fun, what's rewarding. I'm always open to improving things, and I'm always open to learning how I can be a better teacher. So feel free to give me suggestions on the tribe, and please do keep sharing your successes. I love hearing them. And we've got one more check-in. We've got one more live stream happening on day 34. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, you guys, sending you so much love. Happy meditating, and I'll see you soon. Bye.